Welcome to the Sacred School of Outreach. This is our second class with King Dr. Kenneth Clark. And just before we started, it's 11, it's really minus 11 below freezing today. It's what is today? Tuesday, the 21st. So it's a day after the election. I mean the inauguration. And there are hypothermia rules in Maryland, DC, and Virginia with regards to how to treat the people that are in the shelters or out in the cold. And we were having that discussion. I said, perhaps we should have this online because this is real time. This is a real time situation that we're dealing with. And so for those of you dealing with or doing outreach, you get to hear what is happening in real time, hear real time conversation. So welcome, King Dr. Kenneth Clark. Welcome.
Welcome. Appreciate you, beloved. Appreciate you, Queen. I want to quote a scripture for the students and those that's chiming in and listening because it's very pertinent that we tie this to scriptural understanding. We tie this to spiritual understanding. James 1, verse 27 reads this way: Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. Exodus 22, verses 22. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. I want to reread this just so this can sizzle and meditate in your spirit. James 1:27. Religion is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans, widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. Isaiah 10, verse 2. Woe to those who enact evil statutes, and to those who constantly record unjust decisions, so as to deprive the needy of justice and rob the poor. Of my people, digesting that. It's a lot. But the one I really like that really added the frosting was Isaiah 10 and 2, where it says, so as to deprive the needy of justice and rob the people, to rob the poor, and rob the poor of my people of their rights. So the code of ethics was established so that we could provide the security for what? The widows and the orphans. A lot of the individuals that are living in these conditions, because they're really living in these conditions. Currently, right now, the temperature is 21 degrees. It's 21 degrees in Maryland. It's 21 degrees in Virginia, and it's 21 degrees in Washington, D.C. From my reckoning of this morning, the temperature around 3:30. I wanna make sure that I come into current time because we have to. I want to make sure that I get it accurate. So at January 21st, 3:30 a.m., the temperature was 14 degrees. 14 degrees. 14 degrees. This was 3:30. So currently, we have individuals, uh, entities that are not doing their due just in making sure that they are following the cold blue rule. Cold blue rule is to alert the government or the agencies that provide human resources for individuals that are unhoused. The cold blue is an indication that the weather we so when we launched the Sacred School of Outreach, if it seemed like I'm a little bit stern, this is what we should be. You should be stern too. We had individuals that was put out. They had to be out by 8 in the morning. And at that time, the temperature was 10 degrees. And we're talking about a facility that holds 175 individuals. So at 10 degrees, we're putting women out. 10 degrees. 10 degrees. City not activating the cold blue rule, making accommodations. That means I know people will probably ask me and prick my brain and say, "Well, what do you mean accommodations?" Well, if I have to tell you how to do your job, then we need to talk about we need to be talking about we need to be reforming staffing. Because if the advocate has more insight, more understanding, and more education of you who have the authority and have the funding, if that is what has to be case, then we have to reform this. We have to start talking about reforming. We should not be kicking people out in these extreme temperatures. Half of the elected officials, they're not living like this. 10-degree weather. It's 21 degrees outside. So if we're not activating, you say, well, what are the accommodations? That means you are to the city within itself, each town, each municipality, each jurisdiction should have an entity where it is accommodating individuals. I was happened to hear on a live in Baltimore, Maryland, where some individuals in the city were opening the rec centers to accommodate those individuals for them to be able to come to the rec center and not be treated as if that they are a homeless individual, but to be treated as an individual to gain access that they could play some games, they could watch the TV, and they don't have to come in a way as if that they are in a shelter environment.
Oh, that's good.
Y'all, when we first launched the Sacred School of Outreach, we talked about how we are empowering, and we talked about how to uplift individuals of those that are being underserved or overlooked. individuals. See, we have to talk about because a lot of people say, well, I don't understand why individuals don't want to go to the shelter. I don't understand why is it that it could be as cold as all can be, and some individuals don't want to go in. It's because of stuff like this. Because one moment we'll have the agencies that's these over these shelters for them to decide when they want to switch the accommodating of individuals and treating individuals as human beings on their time than as opposed to doing it when it's the right thing to do. So one time you want to say, okay, individuals got to be in by a certain time, and if they happen to be coming in from work, you want to write them up because they're coming in from work, which is a requirement to some of these entities for them in order for them to stay there is that they have to be about success. But you want to write them up if they come in, if they call in, they leaving a message saying, "Hey, I'm running behind schedule. I am coming in," but you want to write them up because we have that's going on. Yeah, we have that's going on in all of these different types of establishments, and because of this, the it creates a a detour because there's a level of trust that has now been that's now have been
Okay.
yeah it has been hinged, but then now we're putting people out in 10-degree weather, and this is happening in the nation's capital under an inauguration. Let's be very mindful, individuals. Let's be very mindful. In the nation's capital, is this what leadership looks like? Seriously, we have to. True religion. I read it to you. I read it to you. The book of Proverbs. It literally says we are to stand up for the mute and destitute. The mute is not necessarily meaning that you're muted from the sake of being able to hear, but being muted from the perspective of not being able to thrive as a human being. It's not just deaf. It's not just being able the cognitive of being able to hear or to be able to be coherent, as they say. It's being mute from the perspective of not being treated with the dignity of the individual being treated as a human being. So currently in the climate, and we have to talk about these typical things because those of us that either have an organization or a nonprofit or we're just actually being advocates, we have to understand when we come into contact with individuals that we be sitting back and I don't understand why they won't go in the shelter. It's for instances like this because there's been a trust bond that has been ruined, that has been tarnished because they don't know if one day that they're going to be accommodated appropriately, and then the next day they're not going to be accommodated. So that puts them into a mental disposition to where there is not a trust. And we have to talk about that. We have to look at when we look at larger entities like this, no matter who's running it, if it's government, if it's an entity that is tied to a nonprofit or what have you may, we have to look at what the cause and the effect. And most of us will when we're in outreach, we don't think about stuff like this. But if we're tapped spiritually, I say tapped, I'll say another word, tuned in spiritually, being able to be tuned in with the spirit, you should have the gift of discernment. The spirit of the Father should be able to Launch this spirit into your spiritual diaspora to be able to know so that you know when you approach a scene, when you approach, again, it's not about coming out, setting up a table, and saying, hey, we fed individuals. Because if a person is battling mentally, the food is not going to necessarily sustain them. I'm just being real, y'all. This is real. This is real, the real reality. This is the real reality. I put filet mignon on the table. This is what we do, Queen. This is what we do, students. I put filet mignon on the table. I put a 5-star steak on the table. And I'm trying to figure out why people are not grabbing to it. Because it's not the food within it within it. Individuals are battling through warfare, spiritual warfare. And it is a warfare. If you really think about who would in their right mind put a mother and their child on the street in 10-degree weather, in 20-degree weather? Who? That is a principality. That is a form of darkness. Yeah, that's a form of darkness. That's a form of wickedness. That's not loving your neighbor as you love thyself. That's not do unto others as you would have do unto you. We have to put ourselves in the position to be able to have the mental reckoning, the understanding, the clarity to understand what individuals are being bombarded with. And they're dealing with the they're dealing with the layout of how they will transition, how they would progress. Could you imagine being put out in 20-degree weather right now and you don't have a warming center somewhere where they can go to access heat? I'm just this is real time, y'all. Real time. Think about that. It's 20 degrees outside. I have a hat on my head, literally. I have a hat on my head. I have a hoodie on my head. It's cold. Imagine individuals, mothers, children, men being put into this position. There's not a warming center. They can't go to Starbucks. They can't go sit inside of a Starbucks
They won't
because they don't
allow
have
them.
tables. They
They,
won't allow them because most of the franchises have taken their tables out and
oh,
chairs out. See, I'm giving y'all real timing. You because in our mindset we say, oh well, you could just go sit up, go sit up in the restaurant, go sit up in. How are they going to sit up in the restaurant if there's no tables, there's no chairs? See, we got to think about some of these things. We got to think about some of these things and why we have some of the behaviors and why we have some of the some of the mindsets from the people because they have to have a support system in real time. Because everybody that's in the shelter don't always have family. They don't have family they can call and say, "Hey, can I come over and stay until it's time for me to go in?" I know this from personal experience. I shared my story of what it was like for me when I overcame homelessness. I was dealing with homelessness for over 15 years. And I was sharing and I said, who is speaking to the black man? Who is speaking to the ills? Who's speaking, who is speaking life? I'm not talking about negative. I'm not saying who because so much we hear so much we're blindsided by individuals sometimes that we can kind of see individuals, we can see our kings. Some of us don't even want to refer to our kings as kings because we've been bewitched by Satan the devil to call our kings niggas, to call our kings savages. And so now every time that we see a king, a black king or a black queen, we see them through a skewed perspective and not see them from the perspective of the way that God sees them. We don't speak the opposite of what we see because we have been bewitched from the devil himself. The devil has created a personification to get us to even close the benediction on how we see black men and how we see black women. So now when we look into this diaspora and we're seeing individuals and we're hearing conversations about individuals being put out into 10-degree and 20-degree weather. We're not moved with sympathy, we're not moved with apathy because we have been bewitched. We have a skewed perspective. We don't see ourselves as a god. We don't see ourselves as a queen. We don't see ourselves as a conqueror. We don't see ourselves as a Victorian. We don't see ourselves as a champion because we have been bewitched. We have been presented to see each other as public enemy. We see the black man as the public enemy. We see the black woman as the public enemy. Because what the enemy has done is he has robbed us of our spirituality and deemed our spirituality as being demonic, as being witchcraft. And so when we show up and we're trying to tell people to come to church and we're telling people that they should be more involved with religious institutions, we don't understand the full dynamics. And so individuals say, I want nothing to do with this God that you speak of. I want nothing to do with the spiritual. I want nothing. Do you see me? When we serve the great beloved at the Tubman, Harriet Tubman shelter, that is what the great beloved queen said. I was acknowledged, whereas before nobody saw me. When she said, thank you for acknowledging me, that's because nobody was seeing her. And so we are wondering why these people say, I don't know why people why they don't seem vigorous. I don't understand why they because they have when this is comes from a systematic way. A climate has been created to see themselves as less than. And when you see yourself as less than, then you become a hopeless individual because of systematic. You don't see yourself as progressing because society sees you as one thing. You can't go to the black man because systematically they've taught you that the black man is the savage. The black man is your enemy. Systematically, you can't go to the black queen because systematically we have a wickedness. It's a wickedness. It's a principality. It's a principality to get us to close the benediction on each other. There's something that I say in a support group, and it says, we all we got, we all we need. It literally means the power from within. You have cattle, one person has produce, another person has uh, carpentry, tools, essentials. Another person has mentorship. Another person has legal aid. Another person has uh, the skill set of seamstress, being able to clothe, being able to sew. And so collectively, when there is a need, we can navigate the person, say, go here, go there. Oh, you do mentorship, you go there. You need this, go there. You need notary, go there. You need this, go there. Because spiritually, we have everything we need. Literally, y'all, literally. Most of us are not as effective in our outreach is because we procrastinate. Typically, most of us have been through an entity or transition in our lives, and we really know what the solutions are because we done been through some of the solutions. We done been through where some of the individuals have gone. We done been there. Spiritually, oh, you want scripture? We overcome by the words of our testimony. So when we talk with young men and talk with young women, man, I don't know what's going on with these young whippersnappers. That's an old that's kind of old. That's an old saying. Young whippersnappers. Nowadays they call young bucks. I don't know what's going on with them young bucks. They don't want to listen. No, same thing that's going on when you was a young buck. Same thing that was going on when you was a young whippersnapper. The same entity, the same stubbornness, the same things. And the only reason why it's manifested now is because it wasn't addressed then. Most of us say, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Most of us, that's if you're of the African American culture, that's typically the saying. What goes on in this house stays in this house. No love. So if they're not seeing what love is being modeled, when if they're grown up into a household where a young man hasn't seen what it's like to for a man to love on a woman, guess what? What goes on in this house is staying in this house. Right. This is what we're creating. This is the culture, right? This is the culture. So the young man ain't never seen what it's like for a woman to show a man what love is, and vice versa. A young lady hasn't been shown what it's like for a woman to show love to a man. So think about this, y'all. Think about these dynamics when we're looking at the picture, the bigger picture of the climate. Because if love is not being shown in the household, where do you think they're gonna get it at? And hopefully that there's a divine entity, divine intervention that takes place for them to be able to see what healthy love looks like as opposed to what bad love looks like. Because it's real out here, y'all, ladies and gentlemen. It's really real out here, ladies and gentlemen. Systematically, we have individuals because there's no restorative trust. And the reason why it's no restorative trust is because people are not even being treated as human beings. The fact that somebody can say, thank you for acknowledging me as a woman. Thank you for acknowledging me as a man. My first encounter when I was doing an outreach, I said, who's speaking to the black man? Who is saying You are a king. Who is saying I got you? Who is saying when was the last time that I was in the middle, I was speaking before 50 plus men and I was strong. First time I'm going in there, I'm going in there strong. I'm come on, kings. What's going on, black men? I'm in there just ah I'm on fire. I'm coming in and I was like, man, you a king. I don't care what mom has told you. I don't care what dad has told you. I don't care what society has told you. I don't care that society has called you a nigga. I don't care that society has called you a predator. I'm telling you, you're not a predator. You are a king. You are a Victorian. And I'm on fire. I'm talking. I'm talking. I'm talking. I'm speaking life. I'm speaking to the to men. 40 plus men in a huge crowd. They sitting there, they listening to me, and I begin to open up and I begin to share with them, and I begin to say, you know what? I don't care what you've been, what what society, what the principalities has imposed on you. I shared my experience. I told them, I said, look, I've been told that I've been out, that I was going to amount to nothing. I told them, they told me that I wasn't going to be nothing. I wasn't going to amount to anything. I've been told personally straight to my face that when God created you, he created you and he made the worst mistake. I've been called any and everything under the sun and over the sun, right? Till I said, I've been where you've been. I'm speaking to men who in my audience, who are people that come from incarceration. I'm speaking to men who don't have parents, who don't have family, and it wasn't behold. I said, if nobody has told you this today, I said, I, King Kenneth, love you. And I had a great beloved. First time I said, wow, this is real. And a young man stood up. He said, wow. He said, I didn't know that you knew what it was like to be inside of a shelter and not have nobody to call to say happy holidays. But he was moved with tears. And as I began to share my story, he said, I know what it's like to be there. He said, because you know why? He said, I have no family that calls on me. I have no family that checks on me. But you coming in here today to tell me that this is a pit stop and not a permanent destination. And then you opening up and sharing those difficulties gives me the courage and inspiration to let me know that I am a king. And he was hitting his chest. And from that very moment, I said, brother, today you've met a brother. I said, because guess what? You don't have to worry about not having nobody to check on you. Because guess what? I'm going to check on you. And here's my number. And the first time that when he embraced me, he began to shed tears. He began to cry out. And I said, let it out. And when he began to release and let it all out, I've never had a black man tell me that I'm a king. I've never had a black man tell me I'm a warrior. I've never heard the words, I love you. And how many of us are around individuals that have not heard, I love you. You are valuable. You are precious. And most of us walk around here and we just think that's normal. But it's not normal for other individuals to have heard those words. And we think, oh, well, it's just being told you love. That doesn't I've heard that. But everybody hasn't gone and been brought up in an environment like that. Because if you've been brought up in a household where you don't see love, guess what? You think you're loveless. You actually think, and it's not negative in the way in which that I'm saying this, but when you come into an environment, when you've been brought, I know when I was coming up through foster care, being told your love was foreign, sound like a foreign language. And so when we're out here and we're amongst our youth, and we're amongst our queens, our young queens and our young kings, and we're trying to figure out why they so mad. It's anger. We've said it. We've said it. They predators, man. They just so angry. They just so angry. They mad at the world. They out here. They woo. And we have been guilty because we look at what the reality we in real time, we may be out somewhere. I've seen it. I've seen it several times. It's been some youngers out here and they've been going straight off mad. There's been even been some young women. Sometimes you sit back, you're like, man, hold up. Some of these young women, they a little bit more aggressive than the men. Hold up, what's going on here? And that is the result of nobody speaking to the king or the queen in them. Now this sounds deep. You say, oh, I don't have to say that they're a king. I don't have to say that. I don't have to say that they're a king. They should automatically know that they're king. No, 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 no. Because if it didn't come from their environment, guess what? You come up from an environment and all you've heard is you ain't gonna be nothing, you ain't gonna amount to nothing, you dumb, you stupid, you a worst mistake. When God created you, he created the worst thing that there ever was. And what we do is we think because well they're at the age of 30. This what we do. Oh, they grown, they past 18. They should be past all that. So what happens is things that had not been retrained because the mind has not been retrained or been rehabilitated, guess what this does? It spills over from them being a child. Now it spews and matriculates over into adulthood. So now when they begin to grow, boy meets girl, and it does happen one way or another, or it happens one way or another, and then they develop a relationship and certain things transpire. We we talk about DV a lot, but nobody takes the time to say, you know what happened to them when they were young? So the queens want the kings to treat them with love and be more emotionally aware. But if they come from an environment where they've been taught that expressing their emotions is weak. See, these are things that we have to talk. It's more than coming out and saying, "Hey, come on out to church. Come on out to church." We pull up with a table, put food on the table, say, "Come on out to church." But who is actually talking to them and speaking this language to them? Who's actually talking about relationships? Why don't we have speed dating functions? Why don't we have speed dating functions? This is a real thing. I don't care how much Jesus you give a person. I don't care how much you tell them to go to Sunday school. I don't care how much you bring them to church. Why aren't we talking about love? Why are we setting up things for how to court? Why are we not doing courting? We to these things, I'm worth the wait. This is what we do. No shots and punt intended, but we got to deal with reality here, y'all. I'm worth the wait. I have young men coming to me telling me, look, I'm a man, but I'm being told that me being a man, they ain't kept it real with me. You've keep it real with me. They keep it a buck. They keep it all the way a buck with me. That's what they say. I gotta keep it a buck with you, doctor. I gotta keep it a buck. You know what I mean? You telling me treat, but nobody's taking the time to tell me, how I should, pose myself, keep myself in check and how to, do. But you just saying, hey, just be a man and woo, and I'm man it down and all that. And what was discouraging to me was somebody even told that hormones were demonic. Again, we've got to get to from a reality to say, bruh, bruh, because see, I'm the type of individual to say, okay, you know what, bruh, if you desire to be with a mate, let's go, let me take you down the road. We don't have these conversations no more. We didn't just put they get a certificate, they get a celibacy, and everybody's talking about celibacy and thinking, watch this, thinking, well, they're gonna be prepared. They're gonna be prepared for when they get in a relationship because they just been celibate. I've seen it. People have come to me. They got plaques, awards saying, yeah, Dr. Clark, I got the I'm worth the wait. And they say, and young man said, and nobody told me what to even say to a lady. I've got a couple of queens that have come to me and say, I received the bracelet, but I desire to be. Can I even tell you, ladies and gentlemen? Can I even tell you, even individuals who are coming from populations or certain communities that are being underserved, why aren't we establishing that no matter where they are at, that they can still find love? Who's reigniting the fire to give them dignity, to ignite that hope, that sense that they can see, look, I'm in this situation, blah, hey, this is not my permanent stop. This just a pit stop. This is not my destination. This is the message that I always give to individuals. You are at a pit stop, meaning that this is not a permanent situation. This is not your permanent, this is not what the will of God is for your life. You're just at a pit stop. But if we're not coming and treating people with as human beings, guess what? This is and some may say, well, I'm not here to be a therapist. I'm not here to be nobody's babysitter. How are we a leader? We talking about we call for outreach, and this is the type of language we're giving. I ain't nobody's babysitter. I ain't nobody's mother. I ain't nobody's father. Why I gotta tell him he's a king? He should automatically know that. Why I gotta tell her she's a queen? She should automatically know that. But we say we're called for outreach. Can I tell you our three fibers? I'm gonna keep emphasizing it. Our three fibers are what? Mental, spiritual, and physical. Mental, physical, and spiritual. And physical is not just from their physical perspective of their temple, but physical from what about their love life? Why aren't we having that conversation about love? Have we just discarded individuals when we talk to our seniors? So we just think individuals just because they're a senior, oh well this is what we're doing. But we say we call for out, this is what we do. I set up a table and I put some food on the table and I can't figure out why individuals ain't come to the table. I can't figure out why individuals they not opening up. I, Dr. Clark, I know you ain't saying it in sacred school of outreach that I should be concerned about somebody having a love life. Why not? Why not? They're human beings too. We overlook stuff like this. I just come to church. I had individuals ask me, say, "Do y'all have a singles ministry? Do you have something? Do y'all have a speed dating? I am a king, and I gotta find my other red." This is what individuals people can you know, and people say, "Man, well, why are people talking about love and they in the situation that they in?" I said, "Why not? The whole Bible is nothing but in the reality, it's nothing but love in it. If you really took the time, look at Psalms, look at the book of Psalms. That ain't nothing but music written from one of the greatest, David, King David himself. That's music. That's love music. If you really open your eyes, that's that's what that is. And people say this, they say, "Oh well, they homeless. They should be focusing on getting themselves together." Okay, mentally, physically. Also, why can't they? Why can't we help them, lead them to the track where they progress, not just mentally and physically and spiritually, but they now start progressing in their love life? Why can't we progress? Why we don't? People be, oh, well, they shouldn't be talking about love. That's the problem. That's just it. We not talking love. We have taken our ability and we just pumping church into individuals. And so those of us who say we call for outreach, because what we say we are, I'm anointed and appointed. Send me, I'll go. And one individual told me, he said, "Man," he said, "all I be seeing is from these folks is they just be taking the Bible and hitting me in the head with it." I said, "Oof, oof." He said, "I'm a human being." He said, "I'm a king." He said, "But nobody wanna just guide me." He said, "Nobody wanna guide me." He said, "Nobody wanna guide me." He said, "Nobody." He said, "Everybody tells me what I'm doing wrong, but nobody ever tells me what I'm doing right." I said, "Ooh, ooh, that's a record right there. I've been told what I've been doing wrong, but nobody ever told me what I'm doing right." Why does it sound strange for somebody to want to be loved? I'm just saying. Why are we having the conversations of the conversations? I had one, you know what was funny? I had one young man told me, he said, "You didn't done it, Dr. Clark. You didn't done it." He said, "You didn't done it." He said, "I didn't looked in the Quran." He said, "I didn't looked in the Bible." He said, "I didn't read them." He said, "But God told me I'm supposed to subdue the earth and multiply it." I had to get real when I said, "Hold up, bro. Hold up, bro. Hold up. Hold up, bro. I ain't it does say that. It does say that, but it's you gotta do things with, you gotta do things with a great poise and posture. You can't just be going out here, you can't be out here just doing. But it brought excitement to me because it's like, yo, some individuals, they're not they're not absent of information. They just need a little bit guidance. And how many youth have we walked past and we just said they're predators, They young whippersnappers. But in reality, they just need a little guidance. They just need a little push. And how many of us have been in the exact same position where we just needed a little push? We didn't need nobody to close the benediction on us. And so many of our individuals who are in these situations feel like nobody cares. I actually had a couple of queens and told me, am I wrong for wanting to be in a relationship because I'm in the position that I'm in? I didn't know I was going to be in this position where I was going to be without a roof over my head. But the one thing that I saw my mom treat my dad with love, and I saw my mom, I saw them. They were in a relationship for 32 plus years. I want to be that. I want to be that queen. I want to be that queen. I want to give that because I've been shown that. I don't want to just do it because I've been shown it, but I want to be in a relationship because I want to be that queen. I want that man to show me love, and I want to give the even exchange to my queen. See, this is real, y'all, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have these kind of conversations. If you're gonna get out here with your sleeves and you're gonna come in contact, and these are the types of dialogue that comes into the community, we gotta be the you, you know what, students, you know what, queen, I've just been drafted. They calling me the young OG. I said, hold up now, hold up. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm about to turn 38. I get it. I get it. I get it. But these young queens and young kings said, nah, young OG. I said, oh, okay. I've been drafted into the young OG status, status, and I love it. I love it because guess what? We gotta show them. We gotta show them. Yes, yes. Just because you're in the position that you're in does not mean that you should not be desiring love. He didn't call you. Every king should have a queen, but society, because of systematic things, has said otherwise. But here at the Sacred School of Outreach, we're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about being the king and the queen. And it's okay if it's even okay if you don't desire to be in a relationship because God still has a purpose and a plan for you too as well. We want to progress people mentally so they can be mentally well to be ready to be in a relationship. How about that? See how that fiber come all the way back? Because you need to be mentally well so that you can have healthy love. Oh, I'm saying something. I'm saying you need to be spiritually well so guess what? You can progress spiritually in your relationship. Oh, physically, not just from your physical uh, body, but you be physically well. Because you can be in love but not be physically in love. Oh, I'm dropping some jewels here. You're gonna be in a relationship but not be physically there. See how those fibers come back? Spiritual, yeah, I have a strong spiritual foundation. And can I tell you, watch this. I know people talking about mental health. But guess what? If you don't have mental wealth, people say, oh, well, what is mental wealth? If the person does not have the essential and the tools, because you can be mentally well, but not be mentally well. You say, how does that happen? How can I be mentally well and not be mentally well? It's possible because some people they have to have In order for the grand, if you may, the grand grande for you to be mentally healthy, you have to have a wealth. What do you do in your spare time after work and your career? I'm even putting this as a challenge. How many of us are those who call for outreach? How many of us have actually been on a vacation? I'm Dr. Clark, the founder of the Sacred School of Outreach, is guilty of this. How many of us been on vacation? I'm not saying you got to be on vacation a month, but it's 365 days a year. So out of those 365 days a year, you should be on a vacation. I truly believe if you are a leader in your call for outreach, you should have a vacation. That should be on your bucket list. 12 months in a year. And I'm not saying it's got to be a 7 day. I'm not saying it's got to be a 2 week, but there should be something on that vacation. Do, do School of Outreach, do we know how to cut this off? This is the
What is
phone. This is the phone.
he said, "Do you know how to cut it off?"
Do we know how to cut it off? Seriously. Think about this. Think about this, Queen. As called, anointed, and appointed as we are, I'm guilty of it. We call for school of outreach, but we haven't set our own entities for mental wealth. That means do we have moments where we go sit by? I like the water.
Oh, me
That's
too.
me. Do we on the calendar? When there's no vision, my people perish. So when we don't have a mental wealth together, when we don't have mental wealth together, we perish with our vision. You have to be able to have things outside to help you to mentally succeed. I like the water. I got to go to the water. I like the sun. So I was born in August. So August is one of the hottest months of the summer. So I like the water. I like the sun. I like nature.
I'm gonna pause this for 1 second so we can go to part two. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so we'll just continue from where we left off. I think you were talking about you were born in August. It's hot in August. You like being by the water. You like the sun. Love being.
Yeah, the connecting, the connecting to progress in outreach, you must have a mental wealth system that will help you to progress mentally well. So you can continue to be mentally strong. You can be mentally healthy. And part of that is connecting. For me, is connecting with nature, connecting with earth, connecting with Mother Earth, connecting with the plants, connecting with the trees, connecting with the nature, connecting with insects, the butterflies, connecting with the vegetation of the land, enjoying the vegetation of the earth, connecting with the mother earth, connecting with the plantation, connecting with the cactus, connecting with the butterflies, connecting with the insects, connecting with the ladybugs, connecting with the ants, connecting with the noise, connecting where you just sit down in earth, and while it's just you're on a bench or you have a blanket and you're on the ground. What about just standing up? Sometimes you just take your socks off and you just began to feel the warmth of the earth. God made us to enjoy the barren seed. So the barren seed, not just indulging with the plants and the vegetation, but in have you ever hugged the earth? You just taking your socks off and just step your foot on the grass and you begin to, as you're hugging the earth, but you begin to hug yourself. You make an intervine connection where you can go onto the beach and you can see the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of sails of sand, feeling the warmth, letting the waves of the ocean, just listening, just hearing it, just hearing the 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 noise. And some of us don't. We don't have to. You don't have to go far. Don't have to go far. Don't really have to go too far. You don't have to go to Hawaii. You can actually go literally somewhere right within your local community. Go to the park. How many actually utilize these things that God has given us? There are several local parks you can go to in the state of Virginia. Free. There are certain parks you can go to in Maryland, in the Potomac. Uh, uh, um, um, I'm trying to remember where this park is, but it's not too far. If you go into the Clinton area, and across it, you can actually see Andrew Jackson's uh mansion, the museum. These things help us to matriculate mentally. The water stimulates the mind. It refreshes it. I know it does for me. These are things that is going to help us to progress mentally, physically, and spiritually. And these are things that when we interact with others in the community, we can introduce these things.
Mhm.
It'll pull them up out of the pit that they may feel that they're in. When the beloved queen was like, just because I'm in this position, should I not be desiring for love? I think that's powerful because they don't see themselves as being permanent. They have a vision. She has a vision. Somebody coming up and saying, "You are a queen," and you have full range over your territory. That ignited what she saw. It ignited. I can be a queen, and I can be in the position to be able to share and give that same love. It's more than just showing up with a table and just putting hot dogs on it. Okay, I'm teasing, but being real with that, because that's how we've done. We have said, "Hey, if I set up hot dogs and chips on the table, I'm for outreach." And no, we may not necessarily have all of the tools, but outreach should be connected with a collaborative network. I love that kind of hearing that kind of stuff. When you say, "Hey, why? I want to be, I want to be married. Do you assist with marriage? I said, yes, ma'am. I know y'all didn't think Dr. Clark had that type of ability to help perform marriages. Yes, indeed. And so that is something that the Sacred School of Outreach does offer. That is an entity. What if you never know how God has things set up for individuals. But sometimes they need that spark. They need that adrenaline to be able to give them, because that's what it did. I came in there and I didn't say nothing about love. I said, what's going on, queens? How my queens doing? How is your queendom? And then wow, it just ignited birth, the remembrance. Say, I want to be able to succeed. I want to be able to, yeah, you're right. This is not my permanent destination, but this is a pit stop. You are absolutely right. Because I'm going to get out of here within the 90 days. I'm going to get a career. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a place. And then once I get a career and get a job and get a place, I'm going to be in my queendom and I'm going to be ready to receive my my king. I think that was powerful. Those are the type of that right there, hearing that just confirms why we need to continue to do the work that we're doing here at the Sacred School of Outreach. We have to inspire, we have to ignite people for them to be able to see themselves the way that God made them to be. For them to say, I'm a queen. We gotta ignite the queendom. We gotta ignite the king, the kingship. Because they get themselves out of there and they be able to come out and say, man, I used to be homeless, but now I'm not. I'm now have a queen. I now have a family. I now have this. I now have that. Because we have set the foundation to what? Empower them. Once an individual gets empowered, now they become so motivated that that empowerment has taken place. Now they're put into a position where they feel that, watch this. Now they can uplift themselves. And as they're uplifting themselves, guess what? They're going to lift their peers around them in the same environment. Ironic, most individuals, when they're in that environment, guess what? They have made their peers now become family. That of which they did not have, they have now created community, and that community has now become their family. Isn't that powerful? That's why we have to push every day. When we push, we what? Show up. So what? God can what? Show out. But we have to show up in the God deity. You cannot be called for outreach and keep popping up at places and people, "Oh, I don't want to come to daughter." That's because what? What did I say last session? We show up with us instead of showing up with him.
Yes.
When somebody may say, oh, break that down. If we show up with him, will operate in the presence of God. Will know by through discernment of the spirit of how to be able to reach somebody and pull them up out of the pit that they're in because they may be battling spiritually. It can't just be showing up and putting a table and saying, hey, I done this. No. Somebody should be liberated when we show up. Has to. They have to be changed. Something has to shift. He didn't say, I've given you life and life more abundantly, and you have the ability to tread upon scorpions, to tread upon demons and devils. He didn't say that. He didn't say you're more than a conqueror. He didn't say you're coal and joint air. He didn't say all that for that not to be a reality. How do we show up and nobody is being changed spiritually? Nobody's being changed mentally. And why, if we're called, why would our conscience not sit on us to say, hold up, I can't let this be? I've known this as a leader myself doing outreach, that I've had to listen to the Spirit say, I need you to go back. Because when you go back, it's somebody there that needs what you have. We've got to get so sharp and so in tune that we are become the guardians. We become the protectors. We become that bridge. But you have to be tuned in with the Spirit. How are we doing outreach and we not seeking the divine, the Creator? I just don't know how we can. How is it? How is it we don't have a prayer life? How is it that we say we have God's DNT reigning in us and there's other entities, other groups that know what prayer look like? I have some brothers strong. They pray 7 hours a day. They make it a habit. I don't care that I work full time. I'm like, I'm like, Jesus, I am striving every day to get more and more like them. 7 hours a day. It's 7 days in a week. And it sounds crazy. Brothers, they pray hard. They don't care. It's certain days they do not work on. They shut down business and they don't care. They stay committed to praying. That should be how we should operate. I want people set free. I want to be able to walk when somebody say, I don't know what that is, Mr. Clark, but when you gave me a hug, I just felt everything just like the young man that I spoke in part one, where he stood up and literally let everything go. I ain't mentioned that one thing about Jesus. I said, who's speaking to the black man? This is not your destination. This is not your permanent destination. This is a pit stop. Didn't mention that one thing about Jesus. Why? Because I showed up in the God deity. I didn't have to mention Jesus. I didn't have to take the Bible and bam, and you going to hell. And if you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, if you're not in a fire baptized church, if you ain't in Sunday school, if you ain't in a membership, if you ain't going to Sunday school, you ain't joining you ain't attending a membership class, if you ain't doing this and you ain't doing that, blah, 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 blah. I didn't have to do nothing, name none of that. I just showed up. Who's speaking to the black man? And the Spirit told me to ask that question.
Mm.
A Spirit said, look, do you see your audience? Do you see what's out here? Did not the Israelites have to survey the land? And when they made the report, yo, we got some Nephilims out there. Yeah, we got some giants out there. Yeah. The Godhead Spirit will lead you what to say. You should be able to know what's in the land. How are we called for outreach and we don't know nothing about the area that we showing up? I've never seen that. How do we show up in an area and we don't know what entities are there? You don't know what principalities you're dealing with. Even, watch this, we should be spiritually inclined to even know what our capacities, what we are graced specifically to deal with certain principalities. Because each of us is anointed and appointed to deal with certain principalities. The armed forces know how to combat certain things. And those of us who are supposed to be God deities should have the same ability. How many branches of government is it? The Air Force, Army, what's the other two? Army, Air Force,
Marines,
Marines,
Space Force,
Space Force,
Navy.
Navy. What the Army can't do, guess what? The Navy can do. What the Navy can't do, the Marines can do. You see how that works? But those of us who're supposed to have the spirit, the God deity, Mother, Earth, the Lord, how we don't know what's in the how how we don't know what's that there's something wrong. There's something wrong with that. We're the most supposed to be the most spiritual, divine, and we act like we don't know what is going on. Our people, our communities, our culture, our hood. That is the mission right there. Our people, our culture, our hood. Our people, our purpose, our hood, our culture. We have to get back to who we have been called. There's a difference between being told. When you call, you know you're called from the divine, not by do what you've been told. Because what we've been told is that you're a nigga, you're a savage, you're this, you're that, you're that, you're that, you're that, and not realizing that this is a principality. We're not realizing we're dealing with wickedness in high places. And that in order to combat, in order to be successful, that we have to address and tackle these things through a spiritual way. And we have the ability to do it because we've always been a spiritual people. I'm going to put a push pin right there.
That was powerful. That was powerful. So at some point, I'm supposing you're going to teach about how to handle the principalities and how to identify. Did you say every one of us um has a type of principality that we're able to
Conquer.
handle?
And
Correct?
some people, some you should be able to be inclined to say that person is dealing with not being loved. That person is battling with being insecurity. That person is battling with you should be able to off if you're connected with the spirit, you should be able to say that person the spirit will tell you go over there and hug that individual. That person is valuing being worthless. Literally the spirit will say, Kenneth, go over there and hug him. He needs a hug. He needs to know that he is loved. That's how the spirit, the divine spirit. We think it's some hocus pocus, some real, some thee and thou. We got to talk like King James. No, the spirit is just how it is. Hug him. The way that I want you to go over there and tell him that he is loved, I want you to hug him and I want you to tell him that I love him. It ain't hard. The spirit will give us, let him that have eyes to see, and those that have ear, hear.
That makes sense.
You,
Glad you explained it that was real simple.
it's simple. It's not hokey
Yeah.
pocus, not
Yeah.
hocus pocus. The spirit, however you pray, the spirit should tell you should be inclined in tune with the spirit. When you go, I have the ability that when I transcend and I'm travel in certain regions, I can say the spirit will say this region has the spirit of health of heaviness and is associated with, and he'll always give me an entity. Certain regions have principalities and certain things that has hovering over it. If you're inclined spiritually, it will tell you, hey, I need you to pray against the spirit, the there's a heart condition in this region.
Hmm.
And he will say, this heart condition is filled with pride. Pray against the spirit of pride. This heart condition is built upon the spirit of stony ground. Stony ground is not wanting to receive correction. This region is dealing with selfishness. That's how the spirit talks to me. This it's not hocus pocus. Some of us think it's so deep. We think it's got to be a telegram from a halo with an angel and the no. The spirit, you know what the spirit is. When you look back, you say, I know that. You have, that's why I said, you gotta know you called. Is when you call, the Lord shows you things. Sometimes the Lord will show you things and he don't even want you to call out the things that he's showing you because he said just said, you know what? I just need you to pray.
Hmm.
The Lord been telling me right now, the only thing I need you to pray right now, I don't need you to prophesy hell, wrath, and damnation. I just need you to pray for mercy.
And it's that judgment.
Yeah, I need you to pray for mercy. And then he'll say, you know what? I need you to pray. Well, I want you to pray for forgiveness. I want you to pray. I want this is the time where where you need to give a word a wisdom. See, the Spirit tells you when to pray. There, there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. It ain't hard. It ain't rocket scientists. You got to be a rocket science. If you are tuned with the Spirit of the God deity, you should be able to flow just like that. That person that bum 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 bum. You when you're called, you have there's a mantle. When you're called, there's a mantle. I'm anointed and appointed. That's the first thing we say, right? I'm anointed and appointed. Well, if you're anointed and appointed, that means you're a divine entity, your God deity. You should be connecting.
And that's literally our natural way of being. So the the prayer just the prayer strengthens the relationship, the ability to listen, because we often pray, but we don't take time to listen.
Say that again.
Yeah,
We
we want to
pray, but
pray,
we don't.
listen.
Because if you listen, you'll know how to go and rescue somebody.
That's deep.
Every time I go to an outreach, I say, Lord, speak. What do I need to say? And he said, okay, this is what I need you to say. Go over here. We we should even get to a place where because we are monumental moving people, God would even lead me to a place where even before I get to show up, if I'm going to host an event or something there, he may get me to show up at that of that area a day ahead of time
Mm.
to cover that area. So that when individuals come into that area, guess what? They're now coming into the area and say, God, as they come into the area, receive your touch, receive your love, receive your anointing, receive your healing, receive your supernatural power, receive.
Mm.
So when they come, it's
It's prepared. The space is prepared. Mm.
that's what outreach is about. I can't emphasize it enough. It's more than just setting up a table. And you can't treat outreach like a chore. What are the failures of outreach? Is when you treat it like a chore and not treat it as if it is a sacred treasure. You cannot treat outreach like a chore. I was so very glad. There was a pastor that I saw, Pastor Philip, Michael Phillip, and he said, this is what he said. I was so proud he said this. He said, when I preach, I do not come in here with an outline. He said, I come only speaking the oracles
Mm.
of heaven.
Mm.
He said, today, I apologize. I am not going to be preaching to you. He said, why? He said, because the Lord has not given me a message to give to you.
Mm.
And I only want to speak what thus said the Lord. He said, if I don't, if he said, if I don't keep my surrenderance to that, he said, and all I'm going to give you is hogwash. I was like, wow, wow, that's powerful. Because it shows that he's not just doing it for form or fashion,
Mm.
but he's doing it with a spirit of sacredness. If we want real impact of outreach, it must be done from a place of sacredness.
That's why they need the support, the covering, the connection to a community like you spoke about. It's not just all on them. They're not doing it by themselves.
Yes, we have to, I'm going to say this prophetically, and this is going to go out to the masses. We cannot do outreach the same in this being the year 2025. It cannot be done as business as usual. There is a lot at stake right now, spiritually, and how we handle God's sheep will be the determining factor for how God sees fit to open the doors of heaven. There are certain things that we want and we're desiring, but God said, how you have treated my people,
Mm.
if you're not in the business of treating God's people with sacredness, then he will block the windows of heaven. How have you treated God's people? There's no such thing as my people. When you operate with that concept, you become like Pharaoh. My people, my territory, my, my. And then what happens? You develop a python spirit. You know what pythons do? They constrict people before they take them out. They constrict. They don't necessarily, pythons are very strategic. Before they partake of their meal, they position their prey into a position where they constrict them to let them know I'm in charge and this is how I'm running it. And these systems that we're not addressing, that is what they're doing to the people. It's about true divine intervention in this season. We must be ready and in position. God told me that this morning. He said, ain't no windows of heaven if you're not doing right by God's people. If you're not, there's a lot of people that's not doing right by me. And so we must get into a place and posture where we're operating in the spirit of sacredness. I don't have nothing to say after that.
Powerful. Thank you. This has been our second Sacred School of Outreach. You went deep from the very first one. So I can't wait for them to listen to this. And I think it's something that should be listened to over and over and over because there's such a depth to what you've shared today. And even in the first one, I especially when it comes to service and to people, the different functions, the different ways that they can serve, from helping people with their relationships to just all these different aspects of their life that we don't or haven't even considered, because I think that for a lot of people it's very satisfying to serve, but to actually be in relationship with the ones that we're serving, that's a whole different conversation, because you really have to have an open heart, a solid foundation to be willing to open yourself up to that level of connection. So thank you.
Vulnerability.
That's
Vulnerability.
it.
That is the word of
That's
the
the
day.
word. Yeah. And vulnerability opens doors all the time. It opens doors. Thank you so much for this powerful, powerful message today.